All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Finance Committee. Today is Thursday, March 5th, 2026. It is 5 p.m. Let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. With our roll call this evening, we do have all members present and accounted for. Thank you very much, members, yet again, for being here this evening since we had shifted our time. Item number 2 is the consent agenda. The consent agenda consists of 2A, the minutes from the Finance Committee meeting February 4th and the January 15th special meeting, as well as payment of the bills and transfers. Might I have a motion to put that consent agenda on? I see a motion by Member Loeffler, and there was a second by Member Farley. Comments or questions on the consent agenda? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and vote on that consent agenda. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that motion carries. Moving on to item number 3, appearances by members of the public and county employees. Administrator Taylor, have we had anyone apply?
Chair Lehman, we've had no requests this evening.
With no requests, that carries us on to 4 departmental matters. This is where we begin, 4A, with our county clerk, Ms. Kathy Michael. Welcome, Ms. Michael. You have 2 items to be presented for action this evening for your department. Item 4A1A is the request to approve a resolution of the McLean County Board establishing a fee structure for electronic data dissemination and the County Automation Fund. Might I have a motion? Motion by Member Roseman Mendoza, second by Member Kloss. We will go ahead and put that over to you, Ms. Michael, with any additional information that you would like to share regarding this particular item.
Well, I'll turn this over to our Recording Division Manager, Mark Bounds. Mark, do you have anything to add? Or if you have questions, direct them to myself or Mark.
I just wanted to point out that the incoming revenues, the way that this resolution would help with, we've got about half of the library currently available. With the recorder automation side of it, it'll pay for more data to be put out there, which will expand the revenues coming in and hopefully work towards a totality of data, the entire digital library out there and available. Also, too, looking at other areas, storage right now out at JDC. That's kind of, in my mind, that's a little bit of a risk element to the original records. Have to keep an eye on that. I've had a pipe break out there before once. VizQueen saved us. There's a lot of facets to the large library that we don't even really store on site right now. So I respect your oversight on this and thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bounds. I'll open it up for questions or comments from the committee on this item. Yeah, absolutely. Member Kloss.
Thanks, Chair Lehman. I'll just reiterate, I guess, for the benefit of the rest of the board, because you had provided, I had some questions earlier, and you provided some great information, so I just wanted to kind of share it.
Sure.
It's great that we're trying to open up these records and make it easy for people. The reality in 2026, there's a lot of nefarious bad actors out there, so we also have to be thinking the other side of it. How do we prevent this from being misused? And that's where we were kind of going, what kind of controls around this. And I know we're using like a vendor platform and everything, but just trying to continue to look at, unusual access patterns and things like that. Because we do want to make it easy for the people of McLean County and other people with business purposes for getting at that data. Yeah. But it's really weird. People are out there trying real hard to figure out how they can abuse things. So I think that's my concern from the county, to make sure that we don't open up liability that we have. Oh, we left that open. We didn't know that. So go cautiously. And again, we'll probably want to continue to talk about this once it gets in, to see kind of how it's going and what we're learning from it.
Sure.
So.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much also for your questions and information, Member Kloss. Any other comments or questions from the rest of the committee? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and put this item to a vote. 4A1A is the request approval of a resolution for the McLean County Board establishing the fee structure for electronic data dissemination and the County Automation Fund. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Moving on to 4A1B, that's the request approval of an emergency appropriation ordinance amending the McLean County fiscal year 2025 combined annual appropriation and budget ordinance for the county clerk. Might I have a motion to put it on the floor? Motion by Member Mendoza, second by Member Loeffler. Ms. Michael, we'll go over to you for any information that you'd like to provide regarding this item.
I don't have any other information than that what I emailed everybody, so I hope everybody got it in time to review it, where I went through each one that went over and explained why. So if you have any questions for me, I'm willing to answer.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much. We'll go ahead and open it up for questions from the committee. Question by Member Bessler.
Well, thank you, County Clerk. So on some of these budget line items, just walk me through what the decision-making process was for the budget line items that had nothing appropriated by the county board.
Well, I addressed those in the handout and the email, that those have been zero budgets for the last 10 years, as far as I know. And that's why I think open communication and better communication between all of us will help answer that questions. They've just been zero. We don't set that zero amount. So every year you're going to see either we didn't spend anything there or $60,000. But then we explain what that's for. So I can't answer that other than to say, and I hate to say this too, that it's always been that way, that zero budget amount. I don't know why. So that's something I think we can address in the future.
So to follow up on that, what actions is your department taking to ensure this doesn't happen again?
Well, it's not that apparently it doesn't need to happen again. It's been happening for the last 10 years. So if nobody's had a problem with it, you know, you guys can tell me. Do you want us to work with administration to put a name on there or not? And so we'll meet with administration and see what kind of feedback they get and see if we should put something in that line to name it. But otherwise, we describe why it's not zero this year. We had expenses.
Other comments or questions from the committee on this item? Yeah, Member Klaus.
All right, thanks, Chairman Lehman. I guess on that last point, Kathy, I would just say that, like, I've only been here for like a year, so I can't answer for what's been going on for the 10 years. But I think I can speak for us that we're trying to figure out, you know, how it's working now and how we can all work together to make it better in the future. So I think that's where our focus is on this. So I normally don't try to make long speeches, but this one, like I said, I had a lot of thoughts going, and if you know how my head works, it goes all over the place, so I tried to write some stuff down. So hopefully this won't be too long and rambling, but first of all, thanks for all your answers. I know you put a lot of time into giving us some answers. We had a lot of questions. I think William had some questions. I had some questions. We were probably all similar, so thank you for your time in putting that together. You know, I don't have all the answers, but I know I've been working in accounting and finance for like 40 years now. So I think I have a pretty good understanding of good fundamental best practices that apply to both businesses and government entities. So that's what I've came on, and Cassie and I have probably had numerous conversations already about how we can get in and help. So hopefully this is not really like lecturing, but we're all going to hopefully learn. You know, I want to learn and help as we go through this. So again, this isn't about anything personal about you or a different department head. It's like, this is, I think, how we expect to work with, you know, all the department heads. So we owe it to our, you know, citizens that we should all be trying to learn from the past and do better in the future. So budget, it's more of a science. Yeah, you said it's sometimes it's more science than, or more art than science sometimes. And it is hard to predict. But when things happen, we may have to make adjustments. And just because I had something else planned, I might have to defer that because something unexpected happened. So that money's got to go to pay for something else. So we can't just keep dipping in. So knowing ahead of time, we may have other options that we can try to work with other departments. Maybe it's sharing resources. Maybe it's a number of things, but we don't have options after the fact. So I think we're trying to advocate for more visibility earlier on, you know, in the process if we think we're going off track. And so that kind of gets us to, we got a new ERP system coming, and I think it's going to have a lot of tools and capabilities that will really help us to get better visibility and find out about things and have opportunities to correct it earlier there. So I think that's going to be good rather than after the fact. Obviously, the other piece of this, the auditor position, is very important in all this, and working with those tools and admin, and collectively, we can hopefully, again, we don't want 100 reports, but there's probably 2, 3, 5 that will be very helpful, that we're going to work with each department to do a better job, of reporting and getting better visibility into what's going on and how we can help for the citizens prevent some of these unplanned expenditures, because there's probably a little better, we can do better. Again, we'll never be perfect, but we can try to do better. So, and the last piece was just that, we've been working as a board on a strategic plan for a few months now, and one of the key elements of that is continuous improvement. So we want to try to help eliminate waste and inefficiency. Areas, with manual processes, and you have a lot of manual stuff in your area. So we think there's probably opportunity that we can maybe make some improvements. So we don't want to just automate a bad process, but looking at what we can stop doing, what we can do more efficiently, what we can automate. So, Rome wasn't built in a day, but we can at least start the journey to start making things better. So I think, we see a lot of this stuff going. There's room for opportunity, and I think we all want to try to work together to hopefully reduce these in the future. So with that, I'll yield back to Chair.
Thank you, Member Klaus. Additional comments or questions? Member Bessler.
So you'd mentioned that this had been this way for this long. So I guess my question would be, do you guys do longer-term budget projections into future fiscal years when that time comes from the budget standpoint?
I'm not sure I quite understand, but no, we just go year by year.
So you don't try to project
Well-
future expenditures?
Well, we try to project for next year. We will see how this year went, and we'll factor in whatever comes our way. And especially, you've probably noticed this mostly through elections, that we get interesting things and changes and statutes and things like that. So all we can do is, and again, I think I mentioned it twice, but kind of like your family budget, you try to project for that next year what you're going to need, and that's what we try to do. We do, in working with the administration, try to look at the averages, but unfortunately, that doesn't always work, especially in the elections division. So that's the one where you'll see changes, either up or down, and I tried to give you a few years examples where none of them were really that far off. But I think, again, what I mentioned was communication will be the key. But back to your question, it's just a year by year, we can't project 2 years out or anything like that, because we just don't know what the changes are going to be, what payroll's going to be, what the increase in postage is going to be, which I referred to too. So we have to just take it year by year and give our best, as I mentioned, guess as to what we're going to be spending. Now, I hope that will help what I mentioned that we've never done before, is maybe a quarterly report of, doesn't mean we'll stick to the budget, we'll try to stick to the budget. But let's say we get some news that something changed and, everything broke down in our equipment and we're going to be spending another $60,000, and say we find this out in April. I think, will it help if we let you know that? I don't know that we can change anything. I mean, and I think we have a history too. We don't buy anything that we don't need. And I think we have a 15-year history of that. So I hope that helps you too with some comfort. But would it help that if we get that information so that things aren't a shock at the end of the year? So let me know. I'm just going to throw them out at you anyway. You can hit the delete button. Or I can say, hey, guess what? We got a grant for $200,000 we weren't expecting. That might be good news for you to start absorbing for the end of the year. So I'm going to go ahead and do that unless you guys say, quit sending me so many emails, and again, just hit the delete button. But I think every quarter, or even before that, if we get some news, we're going to go, guess what? We just got a federal mandate that we have to change all our election equipment, and it's going to cost you $300,000. I think maybe giving you a heads up on that instead of finding that out at the end of the year might help, so we'll continue to do that. And any other advice that you guys, ladies and gentlemen, want, we'll do as best we can to give you a heads up.
And thank you very much, Ms. Michael. I think that the communication piece, at least in my regard, I feel like that's the thing that's been missing, and I really appreciate that you brought forward that as a suggestion to amend it going forward. I'm still slightly troubled that we didn't have those heads up through the course of last year when some of the items were a little high. Things like that I think could go really far as our understanding for the year on how spending is going and like that, as well as just building a relationship and knowing that there is some push and pull. I believe, like you mentioned during the budgetary season when we had some additional questions for you. We understand that things cost money. Life happens along the way. Prices change and emergencies happen. However, as the oversight committee, it would be very helpful to be able to have those heads ups along the way. So I kind of wanted to ask then, with the items under non-contractual services, it looked like some of them might have been along the lines of being perhaps seen as a contract. So what's that overall line that your team holds for certain pieces of software or programs and things like that that would come before the oversight committee and might not come before the oversight committee, or even something that might be seen as feeling like it's probably okay for your team to go forward and purchase, but maybe just letting us know in the course of a monthly report.
Right, well, that's as I mentioned, that we will give you a heads up whenever we can. But anything we buy and purchase, we need. So, and we'll explain that. It's not like, oh, we want new pretty laptops or something like that. And I think we've built that reputation, so please don't think that we are like that, and I don't think you do. But as I mentioned, we'll give you a heads up as soon as we can, and we only buy things that we need that we have to have. It's not like, oh, we'd like to have that and we think we might need it. We wait and we have to have it, and that's why we buy it.
Okay. It looks like we do have a couple of other board members that are in the audience, and I want to be able to give them an opportunity to ask a question, one of which being Chair Johnston. Any other members on the Finance Committee? We'll go ahead and give any members that are present this evening an opportunity to ask questions, and we'll come back around and do another round if there are any additional questions by members of the committee. Chair Johnston.
Thank you, Chair Lehman. As long as I've been on the board and as long as I've been watching the cleanups happen, I have never seen overages quite like this, and that has been very concerning for me. When we look at the process, the budgeting cycle begins with administration working with each department head and coming to a consensus on what gets presented to the board as the representative of the people, the ones who our job literally is to oversee budgets, oversee contracts, a little bit of legislation in there. But ideally, we are the kind of last stop as watchdogs. So some of the things that are in here, I would like to do a little bit of a deeper dive, particularly looking at the non-contractual services. Contractual services come through the board. We do like to have our civil division look over the contracts to make sure that they are fair and that they have appropriate language in it so that we can meet the need that is expressed. And then as budgetary oversight, we are the ones who work with the department heads to determine, like, does this fit? And so for me, I do have concerns. I do want to dig into some of that, the non-contractual. I also want to be looking at some of the pay and the overtime, particularly from a process standpoint, to figure out, are we right-sized? And if this continues to see overages, I know the ERP system is going to help, but as we're looking at it, if we are consistently going over, then that means we need to be having very detailed conversations during the budget about why, like, what is going on so that we're not in this position that we're off. I do think it's also important that the communication is there. Finding out this large an amount at the end of the year was a bit shocking. And so I want to make sure that we are putting processes into place. So that is my comment, is like looking at, from a responsibility standpoint, the department head. It always starts with the department head. With a negotiated budget, your job is to stick to your budget. Beyond that, we have the auditors whose job is to make sure that things are falling in place, that we're not going over, and the final piece is the board. that is literally what we're here for, and that's why we're having this conversation tonight, is to fulfill that role. So, thank you.
Thank you, Chair Johnston. Any other board members with questions this evening? Okay, we'll go back to any questions or comments from additional Finance Committee members. Okay, Member Bessler.
For the county clerk, do you receive a monthly budget report from the auditor's office that details where you're at on each line item?
You know, I don't know that we do. We've never requested one, and that might be another good thing when I talked about communication to involve all the department heads. Start getting that report sent to us monthly so we can get well ahead of any more surprises or extra expenses, and then report back to you as well. So I think we'll start that conversation, as I mentioned, in that information I sent you. We'll start, if it's monthly, we'll try for monthly, or whatever. And again, even if it's not monthly and something happens before the month, we will, if we hear and get some news that we weren't expecting, we're going to let you all know about it ahead of time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good idea to get monthly budget reports. That way each department head has an idea of where they're at. So I guess my next question for the auditor would be, what internal control processes do you have in place when someone goes over on budget, whether it's a line item or overall during a fiscal year?
Well, I think going forward, this process or this concern should be mitigated. My understanding, although I've not heard it directly from Ms. Taylor's mouth, is that the departments will get stopped from entering invoices and sending them on. Right now, they're doing it on paper. I get it on previously prior to February 17th, I think. Days are running together. Prior to February 17th, everybody saw it on paper, and by the time the treasurer's office got it, they're the ones inputting it to know if it's exceeding budget. You know, it's on paper. I'm getting 200 invoices a day, and there's nothing, even in the current ERP system, when I look at an invoice, there is nothing telling me it's over budget, it's under budget, if they're at 5% of budget, which is semi-concerning for a brand new ERP software that I don't see that. It would take substantially more time to go over and look for each invoice, and then for the monthly budget reports, they got them, department heads got them for the longest time, and I can't think of when we had a lot of issues with the scheduled reports, and it didn't allow us to change anything. So if we add a new line because the health department gets a new grant, which is multi-time a year occurrence, we have to create a new line that would mean a new budget report. We cannot stop the old one. We cannot change the old one. So then departments were getting multiple budget reports because we've added lines, we've added funds, we've changed something. If the office manager changed, and so because it always went to the department head and office manager, then we would have to create a new one with that. And so there was just multiples, and I think it became cumbersome. IT, without consulting me, stopped that process. At some point, stopped the automated reports going out.
Ms. Anderson, I'd love to know, with IT stopping the automated reports that went out, did you inquire with IT to ask what happened or follow up? It just seems like this is such a pivotal function to the county functioning properly, making sure we have all of those controls in place. So I'd love to know, what accountability did you have in owning your role and saying, hey, we got to have these. What can we do with a kind of a problem-solving mindset to see what could happen? Was it just completely impossible, or were there steps that maybe should have been taken that weren't?
My understanding was it became cumbersome from the IT standpoint.
Did you inquire directly with them?
I did. I mean, it's been a number of years ago. I don't even know if it was COVID or pre-COVID. I try to use that like as a marker in my head, you know, like baby, pre-baby. And I honestly cannot tell you how many years ago it was, but It was not my doing. I had them all set up, running, and then they stopped, and I did not have access to that part of the system, so. That would be a good IT question, I guess.
Okay. I would love to certainly carry it forward and to understand a little bit more from IT. I think that it's important to have a mindset of being able to do things the right way, working together, going forward with great communication. But I think there's also an element that we need to learn from the past. We need to learn what are the things that stood in our way, what are the questions we didn't ask, what are the actions we didn't take, so that way we don't just rely on a piece of technology to take care of us and have our backs, that we have enough controls in place. And I would look to you as the auditor in office for many, many years to have a level of expertise to maybe help guide us through and to give us some suggestions. And I would impress upon you in the future, if kind of like you said tonight with the ERP system, there's something that's troubling you with that system that's not giving you the information you need, my goodness, please bring it up. Let's get it fixed before this is a system-wide issue that we're talking about in '26. I think you've got a table full of folks, you got a room full of folks who really want to see this county succeed. So let's talk about the hard questions, and let's ask the questions that we may think are the silly ones, or we may think that somebody else is going to ask. Let's go for repetition to make sure we get it
And
right.
since I only have it secondhand, can Ms. Taylor confirm, is it getting stopped at the department level if they are over budget on a line?
Yes, from a problem-solving mindset, our new ERP system will not allow departments to enter invoices for lines that are over budget. It will stop the process as they enter that invoice. It will notify them that they are over budget, and it will require them to then take steps to come back to this committee, their oversight committee, and request a budget amendment to explain why they need those additional funds, whether it be a new contract or an emergency appropriation of another kind. That will happen, and so that process will be formalized. I think the communication through emails from all the department heads is a wonderful idea to supplement, but there will be a fail-safe within the ERP system that those contracts, those budget amendments will come before the committee. And then there is a code to override the budget. Once those budget amendments are put in, there won't be a need for an override at that point because the budget will be modified. But in the event there is a true emergency, there will be an override function that is available to only 2 people in the county. We do 2 people so that we have a redundancy if something would happen to one of those individuals, and that will be myself and the treasurer.
Okay, great. Thank you for that explanation. I think that's really helpful to know that a lot of the questions that we have on this particular item this evening, as we have an evening full of talking about the approving the resolution, approving the emergency appropriation ordinance, right? This is something that we do every year, and it's great to know that the new ERP system going forward, there might be some things that it prevents along the way. I'll pause for a second and see what other questions the committee might have. Seeing none, I do have one final question regarding the labor piece. So with the labor overage, thank you very much for your clarity in sharing some of the reasons behind the gross amount of overtime pay. When I saw that piece, that it was essentially one person's salary in overtime, or depending on your socioeconomic status, maybe a salary and a half. That was incredibly troubling for the idea that, however many humans are working that much overtime. So we can set the ERP system up as best we can. We can have great communication, but I'd love to know a little bit more about what are some internal controls that your team can practice to make sure that we don't have that gross amount of overtime, because that's something that we've been talking about for the last couple of years during the budget time. I know this past year there were some extraordinary circumstances of losses in your department, lots of training. But even with a new hire or someone who's taking on a new task, even if they're willing to work a lot of overtime in order to accomplish something, that takes a toll. And I think as a county, we're really proud of the work that we do for the county, and we're proud of the working environment that's created. And I just fear for people having extreme amounts of burnout. So not only from a financial standpoint, but from a human well-being standpoint, what can you do and what can we as a board do to help make sure that the gross amount of overtime that is being accrued by the clerk's office specifically within the elections department is severely minimized, especially this year's an election year. So what can we do to minimize that?
I'm going to go back to say that 2025 was, as I mentioned, was a very unusual and challenging year. I really doubt, and as I mentioned, I can't promise that you'll ever see a year like 2025 again. I hope not. A lot of things happened that I'm not going to detail here on the record. If you want to come and talk to me in the office, I will. But do know that this person that filled this very crucial job, it was amazing that we could even get someone hired for tax administration. We put out applications and no one applied. I walked around the office one day and said, because I didn't know what we were going to do, and said, did anybody want to be tax administrator? Guy says, I'll give it a shot. Happens to be one of the most brilliant gentlemen you're ever going to meet, and he was a part-time election worker. And he worked his ass off, pardon my French, no offense to French people, that's what required all that overtime. It wasn't anybody, and I know you're not meaning this, abusing the system or overworking an employee without them wanting to do that. It was amazing. And that, again, I hope that, and I'm going to, give you some bad news for the budget. I'm going to be coming to you because we need 3 more full-time people. We can't keep up with the work that we have. And so there's that to factor in, and that's why, again, you see so much part-time. We can get a lot of part-time people to work. It's very more difficult than I've ever seen in my past 15 years, and I don't know if you guys have experienced this as well, to get full-time people. Like I said, we advertised for this key position. Nobody responded. What are you going to do? So it was a good lesson, too, to go through for a department head or an office. And I think one of the people here had a seminar on it. What do you do if your chief deputy walks out? I happen to know a county where all their entire staff of assessors walked out the door. So not to make excuses, but those are the challenges that any office might face on any given year. And we had similar challenges like this in 2025. So a matter of getting ahead of it and trying to alleviate this problem, I don't think you put it exactly that way, as we're always trying to work for the best for the county and our employees. This was a very unusual year. And again, we need more full-time help. Otherwise, you're going to see more part-time help, which are fantastic too. And just one more thing, because I'm rambling. But especially with elections, it's going to be very interesting how this meshes. If we have a sort of semi-emergency like we did have this time, and where you saw this one particular amount with a vendor, and we had to make that purchase within 2 weeks, or we were not going to be ready. We didn't need your opinion, no offense, or your permission, or we would have come to you for it. We had to make that decision. And something that you all will be thinking about, what if this happens again? How long will we have to wait in an emergency situation for your decision? When it comes to elections, I know everything is important, but just something for you to think about, because I think it's going to be more interesting every year with elections cycles. And how do you get ahead of that? And it's probably an emergency meeting right away. Hey, you've got to have this. We got to vote on it. We have to have a special meeting. I'm sure you'll come up with ways to handle that. But do know that this was a very special year. And but I think, as I mentioned, and you now have mentioned, that communication is going to be even more important than ever. Just a monthly thing, and then no surprises at the end of the year.
Absolutely agree on that, and I certainly meant no offense to the
No, I know you
individual
did.
who was willing to work so hard. I absolutely commend them. Just want to make sure that everybody is able to get a little break, because I know there are certainly times that
No, and it's
require
good,
more
and I
work.
appreciate, it's good to bring those things up, because if somebody else is looking at that and they're going, whoa,
Yeah.
you know, and it's good to ask questions and find out what's really behind it. And then your scrutiny is, maybe there isn't a good story, maybe there isn't a good excuse, maybe something's going wrong. That's what you do. And we appreciate that too, and we understand that. So, thanks.
All right. Any other comments or questions from the committee before we move forward? Member Bessler.
Yeah, I just want to take a minute to just provide some comments. I want to thank administration for all their work on the ERP system and getting that online. I do think that solves most of this particular problem moving forward, but I will say on the record that I am pretty deeply troubled that invoices were coming through the auditor's office and there was no risk assessment, internal control to check against the budget. You know, we it's in the past, but that is deeply troubling. But I do want to thank administration for moving quickly to make our financials stronger and a better internal control environment.
Thank you, Member Bessler. Final comments or questions? All right. Seeing none, we will carry on forward and take item 4A1B to a vote. All of those in favor of requesting the approval of an emergency appropriation ordinance amending the McLean County fiscal year 2025 combined annual appropriation and budget ordinance for the county clerk, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? And the motion carries. Moving on, we still stay with our county clerk's department, but we carry on to 4A2A with monthly reports and the recording division. Are there any notes to be shared for information out of the recording division, Mr. Bounds? Oh, yeah.
I had stated business as usual. There's a lot of things changing. As we stated here previous, the McFred implementation, we are moving our environment that was local now is being transferred over to the Tier 4 data center, and we're starting to be able to utilize that fully with the public, which was the reason for the submittal tonight. It is going well, kind of a older platform that we've been using. The property fraud alert system that we had in place since 2012 remains unchanged. It's basically the same. Users who were in that system will get a notification via their email that they had submitted to sign up again at the new hosted platform, and looking towards the end of the month to be fully established, running our Resolution 3 software at our workstations and the data going straight to the two mirrored locations. So I'm very happy for that. I've been waiting a long time.
Excellent, wonderful news. Thank you for the update. Congratulations on the work that has
And
been
thank
done
you.
thus far.
Yeah, thank you.
And certainly cheering you on through all the rest of the change to come. Of course. Thank you, and thank you for your presence. Anything else for item B with departmental matters in the county clerk's office? All right, seeing no other comments or questions, we shall carry on to item number 4B, where we connect, or reconnect, I should say, this evening with our county auditor, Ms. Michelle Anderson. Item 4B1A is the request approval of the ordinance of the McLean County Board amending the 2025 combined annual budget and appropriation ordinance. Might I have a motion to put it on the floor? Motion by Member Bessler, second by Member Farley. Ms. Anderson, over to you for the introduction and/or explanation.
Okay, this is an annual housekeeping thing. It is the purchase orders that various departments have entered at the end of the year, most likely December, some November, that they have entered and have carried forward. So this is basically reducing their 2025 budget, increasing their 2026 budget.
All right, and so we can see that with the items A and B, these are
should be an
essentially,
exact
it's,
mirror.
yeah, so it's what we're
I copy and
reducing
pasted, so
25, increasing 26. Okay. Comments or questions from the committee regarding A? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and vote for A1A. Is request approval of the ordinance of the McLean County Board amending the 2025 combined annual budget and appropriation ordinance. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. For B1B is the request approval of the ordination, or the ordinance of the McLean County Board amending the 2026 annual budget and appropriation ordinance. May I have a motion? Motion by Vice Chair Friedrich, second by Member Farley. Anything distinct that you'd like to share on this one?
No, I mean, these are pretty routine. We have some departments, highway department, is seemingly the last 4 to 5 years, when they've ordered something, it seems to take longer to get here from Europe, I believe, like our larger trucks and just some of those. Some are facilities projects that are just carrying forward. I put the information that I had, so.
Okay, great.
And as long as they were within budget, when I posted them in December, they got posted. So, but as we know, people are still submitting 2025 bills, so.
Okay. So we've got what we've got at this juncture. Comments or questions from the committee on this one? We'll go ahead and take 4B1B. This is the request of the approval for the ordinance of the 2026 combined budget and appropriation. All of those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. We'll carry on to 4B2A with your monthly report.
So I put in the memo, I have asked for a report showing how many invoices are, have been approved or rejected. And they have not been able to get that for me yet. And I know they're still working on a number of reports I've asked for. We kind of pulled a Hail Mary and they got committee reports last week. So we had that was like the most urgent need. But we are still, I mean, 2 plus weeks into the system and still trying to figure out all the reporting capabilities. I know I heard on a call this morning that our IT department seemingly has problems accessing some SSRS database. I don't exactly know that I understand what that meant. It wasn't meant for me. It was just a passing comment so I think we're still trying to figure out what reports we have, what we can get. So I'm hoping to get that. And then I'm also hoping, I heard back from one member, I'm also hoping you all got the fixed asset reports last month.
We did,
Okay.
at least I know on my end I did. The rest of the committee looks to be shaking heads. Yeah,
Okay. So I just want to make sure everybody got this.
absolutely. Thank you very much for taking the time to make sure that we got that one. I'll go ahead and turn it over to comments or questions from the rest of the committee. Question by
I
Member
have two.
Klaus.
So that was out of the old system. I know you're struggling with the reports right now. So is something similar available yet in the new system to show that all the assets converted over, or?
So for fixed assets, they're having me finish, and I'm still waiting to hear back from a few departments. One being county administration and regional planning on show bus vehicles that need to be, Cassie's loving that. So we are not finalized yet, but they are having me finish it in the old system. Okay. And then we will convert that afterwards rather than trying to do that as part of the large financial conversion. That's the exact same thing we did back in 2010 when we switched. We did the financial and kind of did it in, I say baby steps, they're large steps, but steps rather than everything. So, and with it being so close to the end, for fixed assets, it really probably just made the most sense to do it and then start fresh in 2026. So those reports, when they are available, they will look exactly like that. Next year, I cannot promise what they will look like because I don't know yet.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Our reports, data that is in the new system can be exported to Excel, so there's some flexibility in how those reports look in the new system. But Ms. Anderson is correct. We're still trying to work out the disposals for the show bus vehicles as part of that for 2025.
Okay, and then this is kind of unrelated, but it kind of goes back to Member Bessler's comment earlier about the the auditing and comparing back to budget and being able to review the invoices. So I used to run a very large accounts payable department, and there's a huge distinction between paying the invoices versus the purchase orders, right? So we want as many things to go through the purchase order because the purchase order actually is where the approval takes place. You'd have an opportunity to go through the budget process, you get the right approval. Once you get an invoice from a non-purchase order, we're obligated to pay it. So whether it's over budget or in budget really doesn't matter from the vendor's perspective. They want their money. So we have to put the process a little farther. So sounds great that we would put it on you in that auditing step that you're going to compare the budget, but it's way too late at that point. So whoever is requesting such service should already have checked their budget before they phone the vendor and say, I want X. That's when it should be occurring around the whole budget process. So it's great that you can double check it. And the ERP system is now going to do that for you. Essentially, once we approve the invoice, it'll be there. But that's why we want as many things to go through the purchase order process, because it gets the proper eyes on it, the proper people approve it. Certain things obviously don't go through that, but that's why there's a huge distinction between purchase order and non-purchase order invoices and how we approach them and county's liability essentially.
And I will say that I don't know that I counted, I did it, 20 maybe purchase orders we just rolled forward. Last year for the county, we probably only had 5 more than rolled over entered. So we have never been a huge purchase order versus invoice type of entity, to go back to your point. So that represented probably 90% plus of the purchase orders entered in 2025. And I 1000% agree with you. Once it gets to me, the vendor's obligated. And, if it's a facilities emergency, if a water heater goes out, if the furnace goes out, if the air conditioner goes out, we call William Masters, we call Weber Electric, or any one of the wonderful companies we have in town that show up at my house on a moment's notice and show up here too, I'm sure. And if we want them to keep coming when our water heaters go out or our furnace goes out, it's 20 below, we have to keep paying them. So. But yes, the new ERP system should mitigate that. The other thing I did want to say, kind of back to somebody asked a question earlier about a zero budget line item. The only thing I will say is when we have to have our budgets in, I'm just going to use the 4th of July because it's around there. You're not actually spending that money till the next year. So we've had instances, I remember one probably 2 sheriffs ago, where they priced out new tasers. And when they priced them out, they were well over $1,000. And so they budgeted in capital. Everything was perfect. They got the board's approval. Everybody wanted them to get the tasers. Life was moving perfectly, right? By the time 10 months later that they got around to ordering them, the prices had dropped dramatically. And so they had no money in that line that they needed to put it in. It was all sitting in an 800 and they needed it up in a supply line because they were no longer capital assets. So some of that is what's occurring also is for equipment pieces, or I'm sure even IT sees large fluctuations in even every order of laptops we get, if they go above or below $1,000. Prices are changing. A lot of times things are going up. Sometimes they're going down, but there is a lot of that they got the budget. Is it sitting in the line it needs to be paid out of? Maybe not, but they did get permission to buy X. It's just the classification has changed due to pricing changing.
So we do have an internal control process for that in our transfers, and so that too would be coming to the committee so that the department could explain the good news in this case, that the price went down. And so we're very familiar with the transfer process, and many of the cleanup items for this year's budget were, in fact, departments that did have the money in their budget. They just had to complete a transfer to put it in the right category.
And it kind of goes back with SBITA also, part of the financial audit and financial reporting. It was a new financial statement a few years ago, and as we've gone along and we've asked departments, like, what software are you using? Because I don't know that administration knows more than I do what software exactly the Parks Department is using, right? Like, we're not out there every day to know exactly what they're using. We're finding that they were paying them out of a contractual line or a non-contractual line when they have to be paid out of a software line for SBITA. So just some of that internal cleanup. Again, they had permission. It was just originally they'd always paid it out of this. We realized that they have it. It is a subscription-based IT agreement, and it needs to be in 75004. That's probably too much information, but do you know what I mean? There's just things like that with either pricing changes or accounting changes that just have to fluctuate.
I think that's great. I think the theme of tonight is there's not a such thing as too much information. So any and all explanation
Then you don't have a kindergarten.
is I certainly do not. But I would say, as far as this committee goes, any and all explanation is certainly welcome and encouraged. So, member Class, did that wrap your questions? Or?
It did. Just one more comment on that. I think the whole committee up here, we're focused on the overages, right? Just the cleanup when it's moving it, like the timing and it got less costly. Nobody cares about that, right? That's just a procedural thing.
Right.
It's where, hey, this was unexpected and did we not have enough rigor in the budgeting process? We should have really anticipated that, and we could have at least been maybe within 10,000 or 20,000, but being 150. So I think that's the really message of tonight, is just trying to do better and on that stuff, but just, yeah, moving it from 50,000 here, as long as it's a clean offset, don't care.
I was just trying to answer the
Yeah, I
question
know,
of why
but
they
it-
had
but that was
expenses
a
on a
good
zero.
example of
I don't
it-
know exactly what
Right.
her item was, the question
It's
was
the
about,
noise
but-
that gets created by all this stuff to have to move it, and we've had a process to clean it up for years, and it gets messy sometimes, and it kind of hides the real issues because we're in there moving a bunch of stuff, and we're really trying to make so we're laser focused on where we need to be and not getting distracted, so.
Additional comments or questions from the committee? I have one additional question, and it's bringing it back from last month.
Oh, and I had thought about this.
So understanding that it's March, we're already 2 months or so in, I'd like to know, what are you most proud of in the beginning of the year?
So something I'm proud of that I've always done here is, and I hope other people can attest, I've always treated departments the same as far as approving AP bills. You know, if a department that's seen as more of a friend versus less of a friend submits something, everybody gets held to the same standard. The policies are enforced the same across the board. People may not love the policy being enforced across at the time, but nobody is getting treated any different because of what department they're in. So that's something I've always strived for.
I thank you very much for sharing. Is there anything else this evening, folks? All right. Thank you very much for your presence this evening and for your report and explanation. And that carries us on to item number, what's that? Oh, yep, that carries us on to item number 4C, our Supervisor of Assessments, Mr. Timothy Jorsak. Mr. Jorsak, welcome. Looks like you have no items to be presented for action this evening, but you do have items to be presented for information, so the floor is yours.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Chair Lehman, members of the committee. I appreciate you guys welcome me here, as you always do. I will be cognizant of your time. I will try not to go too long here. I understand we're already running a little bit longer than we usually do. I just wanted to update on a couple things. First off, we have our 2026 valuation status. When I put this report together, we've had our first township submit their books already. It's the Allendale Multi-Township Assessment District. So I just wanted to give a hat tip to Justin Milton for getting those books turned in. I think this is the quickest we've gotten books in from a township in several years anyway. So we're really rowing in that direction of trying to get our books in by that June 15th statutory deadline. I also wanted to I pointed out in here that I had received the sales that the Department of Revenue was using for our ratio study process, and I was going through those and was hopefully going to get those submitted. Well, I got them submitted, and in the meantime, when I put this report together, they've already gotten us our ratio study back. So we do know what our assessed value increase for the coming year is going to be. Right now, we are looking at an increase of around 5.8% countywide, which is the lowest that it's been in several years. We have come down from the peak of 2024 when it was about a 12% increase year over year. And so we're starting to see that kind of recede back down. It's still a little higher, I think, than most folks would like, but we are showing signs of those numbers coming down. So that's always, a positive benefit for folks as we move forward. I also wanted to point out a couple things just transition-wise. The biggest one, we are announcing, I shouldn't say we're announcing, but we are celebrating the retirement of one of our longtime staff members. I don't know if you guys have been down, Mary Hall in our office. Mary has been in our office for close to 30 years now, and she's finally decided that she wants to spend more time with the grandkids. And you know what? Don't blame her a bit for that. So she's going to be retiring here. Not the end of next week, but the week after. So we are having a celebration for Mary in our office. That's going to be on March 19th between 2 and 4 p.m. in our office. If you guys don't know Mary, Mary has worked with our Board of Review for a long time, coordinating everything the Board of Review does. You know, in the fall when we're trying to get all those hearings scheduled and get all the mailings done and everything like that, she's our staff member who's been doing that. And you know, if anybody who's talked to Mary, you know, Mary is one of the friendliest, nicest, most accommodating folks that you'll ever come across. And so we're really going to miss her presence in our office. But yeah, we welcome you to come down and say your farewells to her. That's all I've got for this month. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Questions or comments from the committee? Certainly like to express my congratulations to Mary Hall. Rather exciting, and also congratulations to your team on welcoming a new team member with Mr. Doug Nelson. So it'll be exciting to hear about your team's continued growth and success. Thank you very much for your presence here today, Mr. Drorsek. This carries us on to item number 4D, where we get to welcome our county treasurer, Ms. Rebecca McNeil. Ms. McNeil, thank you very much for your presence here this evening. Looks like you've got one item to be presented for action. As anticipated and traditional, item 4D1A is to accept and place on file the county treasurer's monthly financial reports. Might I have a motion to put it on the floor for discussion? Motion by member Roseman Mendoza, second by member Farley. Ms. McNeil, over to you to walk us through the reports.
Thank you very much. The tax revenue there is reflective of the first 2 months of the year. The overall receipts for the month of February are up 15% compared to last year. The year-to-date so far, with just 2 months in, but $3,021,000 compared to $2,660,000, so $361,000 positive there compared to where we were last year. And looking at the budget right now, just 2 months in, we're running about $233,996 over budget. So the shared sales tax revenue there, with the county sales tax being up, and this is another area that's going to be up because it's reflective of what the city receives and then our portion. So the town of Normal, 431,000, city of Bloomington, 623,000, $1,054,000 compared to 899,000 a year ago, and the fund equity, 19,438. Property tax revenue, 15,075,000. That levy, we will start the process of billing that next month, during the month of April. It's crazy to be saying that we're going to be billing next month. And then collecting during the month of May, and then you'll start seeing those distributions come into the county at the end of May, and then again in June, and then we'll move into second installment in September. So county motor fuel tax there, you can see the comparative for the first 2 months of the year, $736,000 compared to $694,000. So that is also up. And then township motor fuel, $618,000 compared to $574,000 from $25,000. So any questions on this document? The monthly cash and investment report is before you. We have, with the ERP system, some of the things that we have done, we've created treasury funds. This was the very first month on that new ERP system. So what I did was just continue to prepare the report that I've done in the past, because we're not able to pull reports. I'm not sure if this is going to change or not, but for right now, we just followed the same format as in the past. The overall total cash across all funds $122,844,000. So I did not have a chance to go out and grab rates this month. We'll bring them in next month, but with the ERP project, so. Any questions? The next document is the nursing home, and this is a snapshot of 2025 for the nursing home. Please keep in mind, as we've discussed tonight, departments are still entering invoices back to 2025. We are still also, between my office and the auditor's office, we are also still booking entries back into 2025. This month in particular will be very, very important as we are narrowing down and getting ready to go through our external audit. Our external audit will start the last week of March, and they'll be in-house the first full week of April. So at that point in time, we should have a really good look at what 2025 looks like, because our goal before our auditors walk in the door is to have 99.999% of everything posted, if not 100%. There's always going to be some things that come in after the start of the audit that we make a decision whether we're going to go back and recognize it in the prior year if it's significant enough. So, but anyway, I do know for the nursing home there is still some transfers that need to be posted for some tort chargeback. But I believe, like I said, that from the department level, there's still some expenses that they're putting in. But overall, when you look at the primary sources, these are the key sources of revenue. There's other revenue that the nursing home gets, but these are the key sources of revenue, and their year-to-date was $9,656,518, compared to their budget of $10,348,000. The total revenue for all 4 quarters at this point in time that's accrued, $10,272,000. Their accrued expenses, $10,694,000. As I said, there's still entries that have to go in against these numbers. The receivable at the end of 25 was $4.7 million. Cash, negative $1.8 million, and the fund equity, $980,000. So that's where 2025 stands right now for the nursing home. And then we move into 2026, and because of how the information comes in from the nursing home, we only have 1 month at this point in time to take a look at for 2026. Their revenues are $977,000. Their expenses $414,000. The reason why the expenses look so small there is in part because a lot of those expenses, those invoices they got during the month of January and February, those are going back to 2025. So at this point in time, they've got their revenue, but they don't have all their expenses in for January. Their receivable at the end of January was $4,334,000. Cash, negative $1,670,000, and their fund equity, $1,543,000. So it's really, really early to see how things are going there, obviously. Any questions? And then the final report you have, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
absolutely.
Yes, go ahead.
Sorry, you knew I'm going to be good for at least one. So I know 25 is not final yet, but obviously it seems like from a net income perspective, we really trailed off in the 4th quarter. So I'm expecting if there's more invoices, it's only going to make it worse. I don't know if we're missing revenue, but it seems like the state of Illinois and the Medicaid revenue line from quarter 2, 1 and 2, we really tapered off. And so is that what we're expecting? Are they just not paying and they're slow, or we're expecting that to kind of stay down in the future? Because that seems to be the biggest difference that caused us to probably go more like into the red. So I'm just trying to figure out if that's temporary or more a permanent trend, if you know, or I see Mr. Wiley's in the back, he might be able to help too, so.
So your statement, your comment was about the 4th quarter? The 4th quarter?
Well, just looking at all 4 quarters, it significantly decreased from quarter 1 and 2, and 3 and 4 are way lower. And so the fourth quarter net income was way worse. The first 3 quarters were all pretty close, and then fourth quarter looks real bad. And I'm just trying to figure out, is that really temporary, a timing issue? Or it's like we've really seen a big change go on?
Are you looking at a particular line, or are you looking at the overall, the
I'm looking like,
year-to-date?
well, the very top line, so the state of Illinois Medicaid of revenue, they had 912,000, for example. First quarter, we're down all the way to 602,000. So that's like a third,
Yeah.
right, that we've seen go away. And so then just looking at the overall net difference in revenue and expenses, that small profit quarter 1, small loss in quarter 2, bigger loss quarter 3, and then 422,000 in, year to date. So we had a big 372,000, I think. So just trying to understand what's driving those numbers.
So
I'm
on
sorry, I didn't send
these-
any of these ahead of
that's
time. I
okay.
didn't see it
On
till
these
I got
lines,
here.
everything is accrued that's been reported to us, but there you are. Okay. I think that it would be better for him to.
right.
To-
I saw him sitting behind you, so
to
that's why I wasn't sure.
Respond to your
Yeah.
questions
Okay, perfect.
about the Medicaid revenue.
Hello, everybody. Part of what has impacted the revenue is the construction project and the fact that we've had to reduce our capacity to accommodate the construction project, shutting down portions of the building. When we got to phase 3, which is the phase we're in now, we went from phases 1 and 2 that shut down a third of our beds. Phase 3 shut down half our building. So in the first 2 phases, we had to reduce our capacity to accommodate the construction project. The budget was based on a full building. For 2026, however, just to give you a little advance notice, for 2026, I calculated budget projections and budget assumptions based on the first 6 months of the year with a total capacity of where we find ourselves now, and then hopefully a reoccupation in around July, August timeframe. And I tried to base budget assumptions on a now open building with a higher capacity, create a hybrid budget, projecting and making assumptions the best I could. So what we've seen overall with our revenue from primary payers is the result of that necessary reduction in census. As to the specific line for Medicaid, it's critical in managing revenue to manage our payer mix, because there are certain payers that pay better than others. So it will be common to see that certain payers are below what we budgeted because the budget assumption for that payer was higher, but we are performing better, for example, with VA and with Medicare than what we anticipated. So, and private pay is always a strong player in the revenue cycle. But you're going to see certain payers fall below budget because we're having to manage our payer mix in order to generate as much revenue as possible with the loss of census.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, you live in the construction every day, and I kind of forgot about that. As soon as you start talking, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a perfect example. So thank you for that.
Actually, I live in a trailer outside the construction right now.
Thank you very much for weighing in, Mr. Wiley.
And so, and the thing that we didn't mention also, when you talk about the impact of the revenue, but I think that he has also had an impact to some of his expenses. But we can go into that with his committee. So moving on to the Blue Cross Blue Shield, this is our self-insured plan, and as you can see, during the first 2 months of 25, they're pretty similar to the first 2 months of 26. At this point, I don't have any concerns, so.
Thank you very much. Additional comments or questions on the rest of the report? No? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and take 4D1A, the accept and place on file the county treasurer's monthly financial reports, to a vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? And the motion carries.
And I just want to make one more comment.
Yes, please.
So February 17th, the county went live on the new ERP system. And I know that you hear from administration that the collaboration, the cooperation, the communication has been incredible from every angle here at McLean County. And I am so incredibly proud to work with such outstanding administration, Kathy and Cassie and Tony. They've done an incredible job. As I have already said, our project manager, Sanford, he has done an amazing job. We have a lot of post-financial go-live modules that are getting put into place. So the training, we're letting up a little bit on the training for the next 2 weeks, but this week has been really hard. But it's coming together. It's going to take time. It's definitely leveraging technology to integrate processes and make our county a better county. So very, very proud to be a part of the project. Very proud of where we are right now with that Go Live Financial on February 17th. Yes, there's been some challenges, but we've been able to identify things and, get moving on it. So, yeah. Yeah, it's good.
Ms. McNeil, congratulations. Thank you so much for all of the effort that you and your team have put in really being the spirit of collaboration. Thank you very much to administration, to the entire team that put it all together and was able to make the 17th the go live date. Thank you to all of the departments, as you've already indicated, that work together. This type of thing is great to see, and it's going to be exciting for us to be able to see the fruits of that going forward and being able to have a little bit more of a easy reporting eye and being able to best support the efforts of each department. So thank you.
Thank you.
Other comments or questions for Ms. McNeil before we carry on? Thank you. Let's go ahead on to 4E. This is where we would welcome our Director of Animal Services Program, Ms. Marshall Thompson. Ms. Thompson has experienced an emergency and is unable to be present with us this evening. Okay. Thank you. We will go ahead and take 4E1A, the items to be presented for action, the request approval of an emergency appropriation ordinance amending the McLean County fiscal year 2025 combined annual appropriation and budget ordinance for animal control. Might I have a motion to put it on the floor? Motion by Vice Chair Friedrich, second by Member Klaus. And discussion?
I make a motion that we take it to stand-up committee since she's not here.
All right, so we've got a motion to table 4E1A to stand up, which will be next Thursday. Is there a second for this motion? There's a second by Member Farley. Excuse me. And then to table, we need to go ahead and take a vote on that, yes?
Yes, you would take
Thank you very much.
you would take a vote on the amendment and then
And
the
then we pause.
action as amended. Oh, just a table.
Yep.
I'm
All right.
sorry.
So we have our motion and our second to go ahead and table this item. So let's go ahead and take a vote on tabling 4E1A, the appropriation ordinance for animal services. All those in favor to table it to the date certain of stand-up before Thursday's general meeting, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Administration, is there any particular information initially presented by our Animal Services Director in the report that we should direct our attention to? Or is that something that we should more have a conversation during stand-up as well?
I think that if there's anything as you read through it as a committee, if there's anything that you see that you have questions about, we could certainly address that at the stand-up. I have nothing specific to point out at this time.
Great, thank you very much. which carries us on to 4F, where we have our Children's Advocacy Director, Eileen Pagan Vega, with one item to be presented for action this evening. 4F1A is the request approval of a resolution amending the funded full-time equivalent position resolution for 2026 of a part-time volunteer recruiter/trainer. I'd have a motion to put it on the floor. Motion by Member Bessler, second by Member Roseman Mendoza. And Administrator Taylor, any information that we should be aware of for this particular item?
Well, I would like to point out that Mary Pat Frugo Anderson, who is the administrator of the CASA program, is here should you have any particular comments or questions about the program itself. And I would like to thank her for sitting through a very long meeting and being here tonight in case there were any questions that I could not answer. But this is an expansion of the services for CASA. We have received many kudos about the services that we provide in McLean County to the extent that our surrounding counties within the 11th Judicial Circuit are now requesting assistance from McLean County CASA to expand those services into their counties. As you know, Ford County is the county to our east. It's a much smaller county that does not have all of the resources that we do, and it would not make sense for them to stand up their own center for CASA. But as part of the 11th Judicial Circuit, they would like to be a part of this, and this amendment, this action item that you're approving, which is a resolution to amend the FTE list, would increase that so that they could have a volunteer recruiter trainer at a half-time position to add to the roster.
Wonderful.
I hope I did that justice for your program.
Wonderful. Comments or questions from the committee? All right, seeing none, I do have to say thank you very much for your presence this evening. Apologies for a long meeting, but definitely wanted to pass along our congratulations on the overall program being so well received that the expansion continues, and we're excited to hopefully continue to support that this evening. Thank you very much. We'll go ahead and vote on 4F1A, the request approval of a resolution amending the funded full-time equivalent position for resolution of 2026 for the part-time volunteer recruiter trainer. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you again very much. Moving on to 4G1. Where we get to connect with our county administrator, Ms. Cassie Taylor. Ms. Taylor has two items to be presented for action this evening. 4G1A is our first with the request approval of resolution transferring monies from the County General Fund 0001 to the Nursing Home Fund 0401 for fiscal year 2026. Might I have a motion to put it on the floor for discussion? Motion by Member Klaus, second by Member Roseman Mendoza. Administrator Taylor, what should we know in particular about this item?
Thank you, Chair Lehman. So this item is necessary to move forward with our project at the nursing home. I know that Administrator Tim Wiley is here as well as other professionals that are involved with the project. This is a contingency that has already been presented to the Health Committee, but as part of our committee structure, it's necessary to get approval through finance as well. This will also be seen on the executive committee agenda, I believe. But this is a necessary contingency addition to primarily address some work areas that were not anticipated at the beginning of this project being bid. The nursing home is a 50-year-old building. Once you tear out walls and get into the guts of the building, you sometimes find some things that you are not anticipating. And so this contingency will address code compliance and life safety requirements for a nursing home. It will also address, like I said, some of the things that they found when they got into the walls and saw the structures in the plumbing, the domestic hot water piping, and some other related infrastructure that is necessary. So as you can see here, this is a transfer of money from the general fund into the nursing home fund in the amount of $225,000 to be used for finalization contingency for this project.
Thank you very much, Administrator Taylor. Mr. Wiley, might you have anything that you'd like to share additional to what Ms. Taylor has shared regarding this project, or any additional updates or color commentary?
Color commentary. No, not really much by way of addition, just to emphasize, we're not talking about adding upgrades to the original plan, the original scope. We just got into the project and found, we anticipated deterioration, but not to the extent that we discovered. And these repairs and the use of the additional contingency funding is necessary for us to remain up to code, up to life safety regulations, and up to keeping the building safely operational.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wiley. Comments or questions from the committee? Member Bessler.
Just a quick thank you for the rigor of this memo. It was very helpful.
It was a team effort.
Again, kudos to the entire team, and commiserations for the challenges found along the way. But hopefully we can move forward and continue to support this project as it is so incredibly important to your work as well as the entire county. So thank you for your patience and your persistence throughout all of the challenges. Let's go ahead and vote on 4G1A. That's the request appropriation or approval of the resolution transferring monies for the county general fund to the nursing home fund for 26. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you for your presence this evening. Moving on to 4G1B is the request approval of the McLean County Employee Wellness Budget for 2026. Might I have a motion? Motion by Member Bessler, second by Vice Chair. Administrator Taylor, over to you.
Thank you, Chair Lehman. This action item is related to our employee wellness budget for 2026. The benefit fund 512 is budgeted upon request or need. And so this action will allow us to fund these activities through 2026 as outlined by the Health Department. Our Health Department takes the lead in our employee wellness program. I think the lion's share of this is for our annual wellness fair, which is an effort that is a joint effort with the city of Bloomington and has been very successful in the past.
Thank you very much, Administrator Taylor. And thank you, members Bessler and Friedrich, for your motion and your second. Comments or questions from the committee? This is certainly an exciting program to be able to continue to offer. Love that we're focusing on wellness, love that we've got to focus on well-being, and just going through and truly prizing that McLean County cares about our employees, not only inside the workspace, but also to enhance their lives outside as well. So thank you for that. Comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and vote on the last item of the evening, 4G1B, the request approval of the McLean County Employee Wellness Budget for 2026. All of those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Administrator Taylor, to you for any items to be presented for information.
I have no other items for the committee.
Seeing no other items to be presented, I will say item number 5, other business and communication. Our next meeting is Wednesday, April 8th, 2026 at 5 p.m. Please note that we're going back to our regular time on Wednesday. Comments or questions for the good of the committee? And friendly reminder, we do have a stand-up meeting, so be here early on Thursday. We'll get the time with our packet. Thank you, administration, for always being so prompt with giving us times. Thank you for your service to the county. This meeting is adjourned.